Good morning. So today's talk is about the fall of the Republic and Donald Trump and Star Wars Episode 1, 2, and 3. The similarities, the lessons we can draw from this, things to look out for, and similarities, the differences. And then a note to new viewers, these talks don't get going until, midway through the talk. Sometimes 5, 10, 15 minutes in. So, that's where the gold happens. And the other thing I would say, again, just for those of you who are new viewers, I don't believe in dopamine. I don't believe it's clearly bad for us when we have these really highly stimulating dopamine hit social media stuff. So I do think it's beneficial to weed through talks and that are quote unquote more boring. But I'll try to I'll do everything I can to stay on track and stay on that point. It's kind of a wild talk. But I've been reviewing Star Wars Episode 1, 2, and 3 with my daughter. She's 8 years old, and we got her into Star Wars, and it's been a joy to watch. But the parallels are incredibly disturbing if you really pay attention. So those of you who are, if you haven't seen Episode 1, 2, and 3, watch Episode 1, 2, and 3, or if you haven't seen them a long time, watch them again. And just put Donald Trump in as Senator Palpatine. Now, there's a couple of distinct differences. Like, Donald Trump is not straight up evil like Senator Palpatine, Senator Palpatine, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, maybe fast forward past this or mute this part. It's pretty obvious. Senator Palpatine is the Dark Sith Lord, but nobody knows he's the Dark Sith Lord. So here's the distinction and the difference between Senator Palpatine and Donald Trump. Donald Trump's not straight up evil. Like, Donald Trump is he truly believes he's saving America, while he destroys the balance of power, the norms that we used to follow as a democratic institution. Oh gosh, how am I gonna get around here? I think I'm gonna go right here. One lane road. Anyways, so in Episode 1, he's a senator, and then he becomes elected the Supreme Chancellor. Here's the parallel that that is super important. Like, life imitates art, man. Art imitates life. The amazing thing about Star Wars as an art form, especially 1, 2, and 3, is that it lays out the power dynamic that happens when an emperor type makes the system implode or explode through conflicts to draw more and more power to the self. So that's the scary, tragic thing in which we all need to be aware of. I'm not talking to people who are Donald Trump fans. I mean, that's a whole different talk, and they're not watching. So I'm just talking to people who already understand that there's something wrong here. So the number one correlate is that the only guiding force in the way that Donald Trump operates is an accumulation of power. So, here's the thing, like the Jedi, right? The Jedi Knights, the Jedi Order. The Jedi Order operates by a code. And I've said this before in other talks, and I'm just going to keep saying this because we need more men who understand this. There's this. So again, I'm talking to people who are not aligned with Donald Trump. So when you're so that you understand them better. So there's this thing that happens when things get chaotic and when opportunities are gone or there's more conflict, the world seems uncertain, that's when we move into more authoritarian type figures. So you probably are already aware of that dynamic. That is happening right now. When that happens, those people that start to self-identify with the Donald Trumps of the world, literally for a lot of people, part of themselves becomes, their identity fuses with the authority figure. So many people on the right, many people in the Donald Trump camp, now I don't want to say on the right anymore, I want to really be clear about that, because in America, true conservative Republicans are not Trumpers. They see what he's doing and they're like, holy crap, we need someone who's fiscally responsible, who honors the rule of law, who honors the separation of power, who honors the Constitution. Those are true Republicans. It's really interesting to see as this thing has progressed over these years, how much more I have in common with true Republicans than Trumpers. I've come to really respect them in a way that I probably couldn't have without Trump doing his thing. Now, but Trump he's just a symptom of the larger problem, which is the higher level of uncertainty and the changing world order, the rise of China and the fall of American dominance. All of those things are pushing us into more conflict, strongman leadership styles. And so that's happening, and you're not going to stop that as an individual, but the one thing that you want to do is align yourself with the Jedi Order. So what is the Jedi Order? You operate by a moral code. You operate by integrity. So, it should be clear to you if you're, I don't know if it should be clear to you, but it's clear to me that, it's very obvious that someone like Donald Trump does not operate by a moral code. He operates by the accumulation of power and results. So that is the exact same dynamic that Senator Palpatine, who turns into Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, who turns into Darth Sidious, who becomes the Empire, who becomes the leader of the Empire, who brings the force of darkness over the entire civilized world. That's exactly the same principle that he operates out of. Raw power. Power for the accumulation of power for its own ends. And so what do we do about that? I don't know. I'm not quite there yet in this talk. I'm not going to get to what we do about that, but I really want everyone to, I think it's critical that we all really pull the veil back from our eyes and know. I mean, a lot of you already know, but just know that we are in this dynamic where we're witnessing the fall of the Republic. It's happening. We're like in Star Wars Episode 2, and then Star Wars Episode 3. And that here's another amazing thing about the Star Wars thing. So Anakin Skywalker he's the most powerful warrior in the system, right? He's fighting for good along with the Jedi. He's doing his training. But Senator Palpatine, you've got to have seen this already. This whole thing is spoiler alerts. Like, this whole thing's going to give away Star Wars 1, 2, and 3 if you haven't seen it. But Senator Palpatine, Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, has been sort of massaging his ego the whole time and then pushing him towards like what he wants. So that's the thing I think we all need to notice, is that our friends, they've been being massaged by this power dynamic that's talking to them in terms that they understand, that they will make them feel like they're going to get what they want, what they really need. And so they're going to get behind this guy because they feel like this guy is fighting for them. But in reality, he's not fighting for them. And that is the rub, which, those of us who are not aligned with him, it's so obvious to see that the only person Donald Trump really cares about is Donald Trump. He doesn't care about anybody else. He aligns himself with other people. And this brings us into a classic narcissism. So it is very easy to be seduced by a narcissist, because a narcissist makes you believe that you are important to them until the moment that you question their direction. It's classic narcissism. Donald Trump will align himself with anybody who will play in his narrative. But the moment you say, hey, Donald, I don't think that's a good idea, maybe you should not do that, boom, you're out. That's what every narcissist does. And narcissists do not care about other people. You want to think about narcissists this way. Narcissists actually, Donald Trump's a classic example of this. They literally can't see other people. Now think about it. If you think about the way that you hear him speak, he doesn't see other people. It's a constant self-referential conversation. And the reason that is because in reality, other people actually don't exist. Now, I know that may seem radical, but think about it and filter everything he said and done over the past, 45, 50, 60 years through that. And you'll see that his wound from his beginning of his life was so deep. This is what happens with narcissists. They formulate a world around themselves in which they perpetuate the illusion of who they are in the world at all costs. Anyone who violates that illusion of self-image of who they are is transformed from, in an instant, transformed from an ally to an enemy. So I want to get back to Anakin Skywalker. So Anakin Skywalker, he's fighting, he's on the side of the good. He has a heart. He's coming from a hard place. And then the tragedies in his life push him towards trying to stop them from occurring. And in that desire to stop the tragedy from occurring, to stop his mother from dying, to stop the love of his life from dying, he moves to a place to someone who promises to take away the pain, who promises him the results that he wants. And then he can't help but overlook that he's actually been seduced by the Dark Lord and moves fully into that camp. And that's the thing. Carl Sagan talks about how once we give our life over to a charlatan, we don't give it back. When they keep repeating their lies over and over again, and once we've internalized them as the truth, they become part of who we are. And so I want you people to understand this, my friends and colleagues. It is who they are now. You cannot simply convince them that Donald Trump is, wrong. You have to help exorcise the demon of the Trump that is now embedded in their identity. Now, I don't know how we do that. I'm not even sure that it's possible, but it is something that we at least need to work on together. I think, so I don't have too much more time in this talk, maybe 5 minutes. I want to shift over to some of the solutions that I've been researching and reading about. So again, I think it's really important to, notice that. Try to get your friends, let's try to get a meme going around the internet in which people start drawing the correlation between episode 1, 2, and 3 in Star Wars and what's happening in America and Donald Trump as the senator turned chancellor turned supreme chancellor, given emergency war powers, and then become the emperor. That's the sort of cadence that we're on. So that's happening. And the norms of the republic are being smashed in front of us. And it's all laid out in artistic form. But coming back, I want to return to the warrior ethos. So Anakin Skywalker is the perfect allegory for what's happening to the warrior men today in America. So the warrior men today are like Anakin Skywalker, being seduced by the dark side. And that dark side doesn't look like, it's not evil. So that's what you got to do. You got to get, it's not this like simple good versus evil. It's what I want. It's what's going to make me feel good. That's the dark side that Donald Trump is pushing into the men and the whole right-wing machine right now. They're speaking to what's going to make the warriors in our culture feel good in service of the empire, which is tribal, and it's going to fight democracy. That's the thing we got to really, really get to see. We have to figure out how we can win those warriors back to the rebellion, because now it's a rebellion. We are now in the state of rebellion. We need to get those warriors on our side. And I think people are starting to wake up to this. Like we've got to get the young men back on board with fighting for the good, fighting for all people, all the children, all the women, nature, just fighting for that which is from a place of heart. And again, you got to come back to this point of where I think maybe, so maybe getting onto the solutions here. I just have like maybe 2 minutes left. The solution is, instead of talking about sort of progressive agenda stuff, we really need to talk in terms of, we need to come up with a language of the common ground, and speak in terms the ways that our brothers can understand. And that is the language of integrity, the language of brotherhood, the language of moral code. So we need to bring back moral code and integrity as the guiding principle of men in action. And we need to bring it in such an intelligent way that they understand that if their leader violates that they can't stand with him. We literally need more men, more Republicans to fall on the sword of Donald Trump's wrath, so that they see that these are good men that are trying to do good things in the world, that are being sacrificed by the dark Sith Lord. And again, when I say that, I really want to be clear. Donald Trump's not evil. He's a product of a broken childhood that sees the world as a dangerous place and is remaking the world in his image of danger, and is taking everyone along with him who feels threatened. He takes his extreme sense of being threatened and takes it into the world, and then pushes it out like in a narrative that makes people feel that they're being cared for by a strong father figure. Strong, abusive father figure, but still a strong father figure nonetheless. So this talk is really about, I've already, I don't think I need to say what it's about, but go watch Star Wars Episode 1, 2, 3 and share it with your friends and say, like, look, just see the parallels between what's happening now. And we have to fight that. We got to fight that. There's this great, some of the stuff, it's really amazing. If you watch Episode 1, 2, and 3 and you really see how he plays everybody against everybody else, and then it's all about the accumulation of power, the parallels are uncanny. They're uncanny. And so we just need to get more people to see through the veil. And again, it's very difficult to do that. Let's start with the language of integrity, start with the language of moral code, and start really bringing that war, the war of a culture of moral of moral action, and coming from a place of integrity over power. Integrity over power. That's the conversation we need to be having. We need leaders with integrity over power. And not tribalism too. That's just like, I think I really don't have much hope for, the Democratic leadership. We need people of integrity, not of policy. It's like integrity first, policy second. What does that look like? Where are those leaders? And let's find them. Have a great day. I hope that was helpful on some level.